Carolee, let me start with you. As we work through these unusual times and people look and search for a new normal, what about these changes do you think is exciting for companies in the enterprise or the SMB space?
Sure. Thanks, Satish, and great to be here with you and Don. Really appreciate you having me join you. So I think, look, you rightly outlined a lot of what has been sort of an unprecedented year by any stretch of the imagination. And I think times of disruption really create, it's clear, tremendous opportunities and provide room for sort of new innovation that goes on. Customers have been reimagining, as you outlined, almost everything about the way they engage with customers and workforces in the past year. I vividly remember sort of April of last year and talking to the CEO of a bank in Korea at the time, who had moved completely to digital branches, and we were having a conversation about what it was going to look like. And many of you may be familiar, South Korea got very aggressive. They actually reopened much quicker than many other markets. And as we continued to have those dialogues, the reality was they said, we're simply going to continue to look at digital branches going forward, sort of, there's no going back for them. And so this has really meant transforming themselves, transforming their industries, and really transforming the way folks are interfacing with their customers. As you outlined, it's been new market realities that have come about. Some industries and segments are seeing, unprecedented growth. Others are struggling to survive. It's been pretty consistent that business owners are driving much more of the decision-making versus IT in this environment, because it really is about remaking that customer experience that someone is having. And I think there's good news for companies in this. Investments that they're making today are not just sometimes where you have to do a one-time cost with no return because of a situation that's going on. These are all investments that are going to pay dividends over time. As it's clear, the world is not going back to the way it was before, really ever again in the same way. Look, I have a fantastic job. I have the distinct privilege of getting to talk to partners and executive business leaders around the world. And it's really been interesting to see the way they have taken advantage of sort of this opportunity to disrupt, to be creative, and to reimagine. When you think about, retail consumer buying behaviors that have changed rapidly, and they're expected to continue to shift. When I think of my almost 80-year-old mother, you referenced Instacart, like learning to buy groceries online, to almost every mom and pop restaurant learning to have a website that's taking orders online. Boy, have things changed. And that won't ever go back. My mom knows how to do that now. And if she does, there's probably not anyone who doesn't know how to do it. And I think for retailers, specifically for that industry, it's obviously been quite a ride. We had customers who experienced 3 times their Black Friday traffic, which normally, we prepare for months in advance. They're thinking about that. What are the offers they're making? And suddenly that was on, and it went on day after day. That great toilet paper crisis we all experienced, was around sort of grocers, big box stores that had gaps too, frankly, between their e-commerce and their supply chain. You could place an order and then get your little notification, order canceled. And that really related to the fact that they'd never seen traffic like that they were able to bridge gaps sometimes with people, et cetera. And it really exposed the challenges. Those who were able to quickly respond to that, identified these are like must-have capabilities that they've got to have. And again, those capabilities are going to continue to benefit them as they have an improved supply chain continuity. They're better able to understand. I know we're here to talk about AI and ML and the impacts of that, better able to understand and predict what customers are looking. And those will be the differences between somebody who is surviving versus someone who is thriving. And, I mentioned financial services just to kind of, briefly touch on from an industry lens what's going on. But, tremendous shift there to mobile interfaces, and the same thing, really having access to data in a way that they haven't before. And how do they drive a new tailored experience that really speaks to me on my mobile? Like many of you, I actually downloaded a credit card app that I'd never used before in this period because I was doing things differently than I had before. And so much more of what I was doing was actually moving to my phone, and it becomes much more relevant what I see there. And again, companies who are able to really harness that information to more effectively, whether it's a consumer or a business, and certainly all of our expectations as businesses have really changed, haven't they, in terms of what we expect. We've been schooled on a consumer experience, and when you turn up at your office or when you're trying to engage with another company in a professional capacity, our bar is different than it used to be. You know, I vividly remember the way it used to be to enter expenses once upon a time versus now picture, send, done, you know, and off I go. And so these things, you know, think about, and you touched on also the healthcare industry and certainly telehealth. You know, many of us, I myself, have been into a virtual doctor in the last year. And I think that aspect has also been complemented by the way in which AI is remaking treatment plans for millions of people, using new diagnostic tools that are faster and more effective, that require fewer people interacting with one another. I mean, these are things that I think have been a real win in a situation that, of course, has been unprecedented and so difficult for so many.